Could a spark of your love light a fire in me? Just a spark, warm my cold heart. It's a living that breathes.
Hello and happy Friday. This is Pastor Chris again, and this is your Friday afternoon primer. Now, Sunday morning service is at 11 a.m. right here at Christ Central in Spokane. If you have no home church and you'd like to come be with us, we would love to have you come and fellowship here in our fellowship. If you have your own fellowship, we encourage you to go to yours. But we are happy that you stopped by for our short devotional. Well, the holiday/Christmas season is over, and people are beginning to think about the new year. It is January the 7th, or at least Sunday will be rather. And because of that, people are looking for their New Year's resolutions. And the resolution I want to encourage you to make this year is to ask more questions. That may not seem like challenging. I'm not asking you to learn how to run a marathon or lose a few pounds or even become more faithful at your church. All great goals. These are all things that people like to change about themselves, their diet or their activities. But rather, I would like you to consider the fact that maybe instead of pretending you know the answer to all things, that you ask a few more questions to see what doors and what insights God will open up for you in 2018. Our passage today is right there, and it is Mark chapter 9, and we'll be doing about 10 through 12 is all, just a handful of verses on Sunday morning. There's a number of parallel passages we'll be looking at. But in this particular passage, the disciples asked Christ a pointed question. But interestingly enough, they were asking each other a question, and they didn't get the answer. And when they finally get a chance to ask Christ, they ask him a completely different question. So I'm going to read the verses. They're right here. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus gave them orders not to tell anyone what had been seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. And they, of course, kept asking themselves, what does it mean, risen from the dead? And then we come to verse 11. They're actually with Christ now. And it says, and they asked him, why do the teachers of the law say that Elijah must come first? A completely different question if you catch their train of thought here. They've gone from what does it mean to be raised from the dead, and they've kind of continued that thought process on to ask, why is it that the teachers of the law say the Messiah can't come until after Elijah? What exactly does that mean? Of course, Elijah had been born 1,000 years before any of these men were born, and so clearly that's already happened, and so perhaps they were thinking that Elijah must return. And Christ does answer, and he says, to be sure, Elijah does come first and restores all things. Why then is it written the Son of Man must suffer and be rejected? I tell you, Elijah has come, and they've done to him everything they wish, just as it is written about him. And if you're a disciple at that point, maybe you're scratching your head because Elijah hasn't returned a second time. What Christ is referring to specifically, of course, is John the Baptist, and he fleshes that out a little more over the rest of the chapter. He doesn't go into all that detail here. We'll get into it over the next few weeks. But for the disciples' end, they asked the question and they got an answer. Now, it wasn't the answer they expected, and it's going to take a little more digging for them to flesh that out into their lives. Yet their asking of the question laid the way for an actual answer, where their now understanding of Christ and the gospel is completely changed. And that's my encouragement for you and for me this year, is to continue asking questions. Ask questions of the spiritual leaders in your life. Ask questions of that devotional book perhaps you read on your daily devotions in the morning or in the evening. You need to be asking the questions of those people and those ideas, and ultimately of God. He is willing and able to answer your question. That's what the Holy Spirit indwelling is all about. So this year, I encourage you to have more inquisitive a spirit than you had last year. I'm going to attempt to do the same. I have this amazing outlet where I get to research things that have been stuck in my head and begin to flesh out some of those answers. If you have questions for me or the church, or questions more about what Christ meant about Elijah, you can put them in the comment section directly below right here, and I will do my best to answer them. Well, God bless you. We love you very much. You have a blessed 2018.
When I breathe in hope and breathe in grace and breathe